Welcome to this short demonstration on building an on-prem coding assistant with HPE. Code generation is one of the use cases that many enterprises choose to get started with GenAI. However, there's a strong misconception out there that you have to sign up to a service like GitHub Copilot to get that capability. That's not true, and today I'm going to show you how you can run your own code gen assistant on premises with the help of a tool from HPE called the Machine Learning Inference Software, as well as some open source models. Let's get into it. All right, here we are in the HPE Machine Learning Inference Software, which is based on Kserve. And I already prepared my model endpoints. In my case, I'm going to use a Llama 3, and I'm going to use a StarCoder model. So you can see here my Llama 3 endpoint is ready, and we can see the API URL available here. And the same thing for my StarCoder model. And then when we click each of the models, we can see all the information about this endpoint, specifically the serving resources that are being consumed, as well as potential scaling or canary rollout information. Both of these model endpoints also have a Grafana dashboard that allows us to track what's going on with these endpoints. So here we see our Llama 3 endpoint in the Grafana dashboard. We can see the inference requests that have been processed. We can see a timeline. We can see all of the inference requests. So both input and output of, in this case, streams are available here as well. And then we see all of the service logs. And these dashboards are available for all of our deployments, so including the StarCoder model here as well. Also, for all of our endpoints, we have a Swagger UI, so we can quickly see how to interact with that model. In this case, the StarCoder one. We can see this is OpenAI compliant, so V1 models and V1 completions is available. And then we can even execute some of these requests to see how to format those directly from this UI. So perfect. We have two endpoints that we can use for our code gen demo. Let's hop over to Visual Studio Code, and we'll take a look at how we can use those. Here we are in Visual Studio Code, installed locally on a MacBook, and I already pre-installed the extension Continue that allows us to connect Visual Studio Code with our model endpoints we just saw. And the way we do this is by using this configuration.json file that basically allows us to point to our Llama 3 and StarCoder model endpoint. As soon as we have that set up, we can start with the code generation. And to do that, I'm going to press Command I. And I'm just going to ask for a function that does a bubble sort and an example of how to use that. The generated code will automatically appear here in my IDE. Here we go. The code is now here, and I can accept or reject this. I'm going to accept this here in my case with Command-Shift-Enter. All right, from here now, I want to make sure that this code actually runs. So I'm just going to execute it. And indeed, it seems to run without any errors. Now, maybe I want to update this code, so I'm going to highlight it again and press Command I again. And now we're in the context of that code, and I can ask it to maybe rename this function. So I'm going to ask it rename bubble sort to serial sort and make sure the code works. In a few seconds, we'll see the suggestions here on what should be updated. And once again, we can accept or reject those suggestions directly from within the IDE. Here we go. We can see that it's going to update in 3 locations because we named this method or this function a different way now. And we can accept this once again with Command-Shift-Enter. And I'm just going to make sure again that this code still runs. Perfect. So now that we removed any kind of indication what this function actually does, let me highlight this again and then press Command L, and I can now chat with this code. So I can ask, what does this code do? And here we're using Llama 3 to explain code and tell us step by step what this code does directly from the IDE. Awesome, so we have our explanation. So from here, we can move on to the next demonstration. So let's close this up again here. And we can move back here, and let's just assume that we have a list of test cases. Oops. And I'm just going to name this test 1, test 2, and test 3. And I would like to loop over these test cases, and it's already suggesting what I would like to do. So for test in test case, this comes from our code generation in StarCoder. It's looking at the code before this line, and it's suggesting that I'm going to loop over this for test in test cases. And I want to print the test case. Perfect. So I'm going to complete this as well. So in this case, I would expect that it will print these test cases. So let's run the code again. And indeed it does. Like before, I can obviously ask what this code does. It's not very complex here, but let me just highlight this again. Press Command L. What does this code do? And it will explain it to me in natural language. I hope this quick demo gave you an impression of the experience that you can expect when building out an on-premise code generation application with HPE. I do want to close out by highlighting 3 considerations on why to build out code generation applications on premises. 1. Independence. Think about the stack that you need to build out a code gen application. Ideally, you want to be in full control of that application stack across the lifecycle of that application that you're building out. With on-premise, you have that control. At the same time, you want to make sure that you ensure privacy and security. Code is one of the most sensitive and critical assets an organization may have. Therefore, you need to make sure your code assets are protected and you meet all compliance and regulatory requirements. And last, performance. This is monitored both in terms of number of tokens generated per second, but also the actual mall performance. You may have a code base that is slightly different from what is out there in terms of public services. So the ability to optimize malls, fine-tune them, optimize their performance, and then run them at the lowest inference cost is one of the key performance considerations of why to build this out on premises.